Hey guys, this week's podcast is brought to you by Hulu Plus. Only $7.99 a month to watch your favorite shows and seasons this holiday season. Easy to watch on basically any streaming device you own. I'll get you 2 weeks for free by going to huluplus.com/Colt. On-demand TV, so great. Sign up and enjoy. But for now, enjoy the show.
This is the Art of Wrestling with professional wrestler Colt Cabana. It's Colt Cabana.
All right, how you guys doing? Come on in, sit down, relax. You're about to listen to the Art of Wrestling.
Whoa. It's Christmas time in Hollis, Queens. Colt Cabana is cooking chicken and collard greens.
That's awful.
A professional wrestling podcast. It's a life podcast. It's a personal journal. It's an entryway into the minds and souls, the hearts and lives of the people involved in the world of professional wrestling. I am your host. My name is Colt Cabana. I'm also joined by some friends.
We are going to steal your souls. It's a soul-stealing podcast.
This is Cliff Compton. A journeyway, an entryway, a gateway.
Minds, hearts, souls, butts of professional wrestling.
Colt Cabana. I'm your host, Colt Cabana.
You don't even know your own show.
Well, now I'm thrown off because I'm usually... Wait, when do I start saying I'm also...
A life.
I am a professional wrestler, but I am also a coupon cutter. Yeah. I am also a collector of animal pelvises. I also happen to stalk giraffes.
Yep, a lot of animals in this thing here.
Bestiality.
I knew you were going to say. How did I know you were going to say?
Most importantly, though, I am a professional wrestler, and we are not coming to you live from the studio.
Apartment.
Nope, we're here in Hell House, basically next to the studio apartment, which I drove over.
Yep.
It's 2 blocks.
It's 50 degrees out.
It's a beautiful winter evening here in the holiday season. I don't want to say Christmas because we all know you're Jewish.
Thank you very much. Before we go any further, this is a fan-supported and listener-supported podcast supported by people just like you. We give it to you free of charge every single Thursday. ColtCabana.com.
Your money.
iTunes and SoundCloud. A couple great ways that you can support, rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes. Helps the algorithm. Tell a friend. Social media, whether you got Snapchat, whether you got LinkedIn, whether you got Facebook, whether you have a Facebook like page or just a regular page, go on there, spread the word. Or if you do have a couple of bucks, go on over to coltmerch.com or digitalcolt.com. Give back monetarily.
That's my favorite word you use.
Monetarily.
Monetarily.
I think it's a solid word.
It's a solid word.
Yeah, I'm on a solid word.
Give it your
I give
vocabulary.
it a 7.
You know what I got there? I got t-shirts, buttons, pictures, posters, DVDs, digital downloads, The Wrestling Road Diaries 1, The Wrestling Road Diaries 2, starring this man over here to my right, Cliff Compton. So much to give back this to this season.
So much money you could give Colt.
That's right. ColtMerch.com, digitalcolt.com.
Who doesn't want a digital download in their stocking in Christmas morning? You know?
Yeah, if I was smart, I would give I would give away a little card. Is that what bands do now? If
you were smart, you would have been a doctor.
Thanks, Marsha. Is that you? My mother.
God, if you were, you should have been a doctor.
Thank you, but she calls me Colt by my real name. Real name, Phil.
Colt Cabana. When is your friend CM Punk gonna come over? He's my favorite friend of yours.
Was she from New York now? That sounds like your mother, Cliff.
Come on.
My mother died when I was 2.
Great.
Merry Christmas!
It is the Christmas episode. This show, Mick Foley is on, and we did this podcast while I helped doing stand-up for him while he was in Rosemont, Illinois, and I'm going to be doing stand-up opening for him in Michigan, in Grand Rapids and Royal Oak on the January 20th and the 21st.
Mick should be opening for you, in my humble opinion.
Well, no, I'll tell you what, because Marty and I did those comedy shows, and we went around, and we got a good solid number of people. But when I went to Zany's and watched Mick do his stand-up, man, he fucking packed that place.
Yeah.
So right now, I'm working my way up.
Well, he's Santa Claus. People want to go see Santa Claus in hopes that maybe he tells a dirty joke, I think.
Yeah.
You know?
You can ask Mick Foley about the Great Power Udi if you're listening out there. He has great Udi stories.
He loves being asked about the Great Power Udi.
Yes, and tell him Cliff Compton sent you. He loves that even more.
What are you trying to get out of having people say Cliff sent you.
I'm hoping Mick calls me and wants to do some sort of tour together.
There you
What
go.
else would I be
Taking my spot.
There you go.
You
You can also hire Cliff as a life coach.
Life
I
coach.
think maybe that's what he's hoping.
I do impersonations.
Oh, really?
All
What do you
sorts
got?
of things.
What do you got? Do Kevin Spacey.
Kevin Spacey, the actor.
You're good.
All right, this is the Christmas episode. This
It
is
is,
dropping
which is-
on Christmas.
Oh, that's why it's the Christmas. Okay, so it has nothing to do with
Me
you
being Jewish? Nothing at all.
right.
It might still be the 8th day of Hanukkah. I don't even know.
On the 8th day of Hanukkah, Jewish Santa gave to me
Four
funny-
dreidels.
and a funny little
Dreidling.
hat. I don't know.
We were actually going to steal a gigantic menorah.
Wait a second. We overheard two guys on the street saying that they
Yes.
were going to steal this
course.
gigantic menorah, and
We
I
would
was
never
like, "Whoa,
steal.
these guys mean business, Cliff,
Yes.
and they're also very good looking."
Yes, very good looking. They were going to steal it and put it in your studio apartment. So when you came home from Los Angeles, California, there was a giant menorah. In
Would've
your
been great.
Wouldn't that have been great?
Would have been the first menorah I've owned in
A
years.
pussy,
Right, yeah,
a
we're
pussy
trying to-
magnet, if you will.
We're trying to get you right with not Jesus.
With kind of Jesus.
With Abraham. I
With
don't know.
Jesus before
Muhammad?
before
No?
Jesus became
Jesus
Jesus.
was a
Different.
Jew, yeah?
That's what I was getting at. Okay, I wanted to get at,
You just confused a lot of people.
I know.
All right,
but I think made a lot of people happy. Hopefully,
maybe.
Christmas gifts maybe involving.
I got you a real gemski.
Oh, not this year. I was going to say I remember. So to do with wrestling, I remember I was like 10, maybe 10 or 12 years old, and my grandma bought us these. Myself and my brother Christmas gifts, right? My brother's Christmas gifts were like like small wrapped up things. Mine were huge. I was super excited. We go to open it up, right? I open mine up. It's Jimmy Hart and Captain Lou Albano LJN figures.
Sweet.
Big package. His were like the original. I don't know if you remember the like before Nintendo DS, but like the small Nintendo it was like the first ever self-playing games.
Like a Game Boy?
But it was before Game
Yeah,
Boy.
I remember.
And it was like, those were like $100 each. And I remember being so upset because I took Captain Lou and Jimmy Hart out, and like, what can you really do with them? You could just kind of put them.
You're just mad that his gifts were more expensive.
Yes.
All right.
And there was so much more he could do with them.
I don't. How big were they? Because I remember there were
The size of an iPhone, I would say.
I remember there were sports games that were like maybe twice, 2 or 3 times the size of an iPhone. I remember it was like not that much.
It was kind of a little after that. I know those were Tiger
Yes.
Electronics.
Yes, you're right.
Yes.
It was
Tiger Jung Lee.
precursor to
Electronics.
Temco Bowl.
But I would say like if you flipped
Tecmo?
open your
Did I-
iPhone,
Did I dyslexia the shit out of that?
Tecmo.
I said Temco Bowl.
That sounds like
Dyslexia.
sounds like a little somebody I know very well.
I got problems.
Any other good gift stories?
No, I've been pretty fortunate over the years. I've never really gotten a shitty gift. No one gives me shitty gifts. Everybody
Oh,
loves
wait till
me.
you open mine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You're trending in space right now.
You
by
like
the way.
spiders, don't you?
Yes, I
Okay,
love it.
good. Perfect.
Hey, what about New Year's resolutions? You know what mine is?
What?
I've decided I'm going to lose some weight. I'm getting a little hefty.
I did my New Year's resolution in June.
Months ago.
Yeah.
No, you're a slim pickings right now.
Well, that was my resolution. I don't think I have one. I've never done New Year's resolution.
Me neither, but
No.
mine's I'm going to drop a few lbs.
Okay.
Every year, I always say my New Year's resolution is to not do resolutions anymore, and I've never done one either. I think everybody always does the same thing. Oh, I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to finally
What are
return
you
that
saying?
Redbox DVD that's been in the backseat of my car. I owe $3,000 on it. So
I mean, I could stand to lose a few pounds.
let's see
no?
here. How much weight have you lost, Cabana?
As of today, I was 228. At my highest, I was about 263.
Wow, and you're shooting for 225, right?
I'd like to be 218, to be honest.
okay,
but
all
I don't
right.
see that
All
happening.
right.
You want to look good naked, right?
No, I just want to be 218 because that was what Cliff was.
Yeah,
You're still a heavyweight. I myself I've also lost 20 pounds.
There you go.
Since like November.
You look great.
I feel great.
You look great. Yeah.
Cliff, you're the only one here.
I look good.
You're like 250.
Yeah, I'm pushing 250, and I
Yeah.
got some big things coming up. I got to trim down. A lot of people tell me, why do I wrestle in a T-shirt when I look so good?
Right.
A lot of people.
A lot of people.
Those two guys who were going to steal the menorah said that to him.
It's marketing at its best.
Well, good of luck to you.
Thank you.
And
Next year, I'll let you know how the results.
Yeah,
went.
We'll be back for the Hollis Queens episode next year.
When we do it
I'll give a weight check.
I like it. I guess Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to everybody, yeah?
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Kwanzaa.
I love you all.
Hanukkah, Christmas. If you go fishing, that's sort of like a religion.
Festus.
Santa Festus. Everybody go home and YouTube Santa Festus. You're welcome.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Song of the Week this week is brought to you by Hulu Plus. Whether you're on holiday break or vacation or with some weird-ass relatives, you can escape where you're at by watching multiple seasons of your favorite shows. Right now, Hulu Plus has all the current season episodes of some of your favorites, like Once Upon a Time and South Park, plus past season episodes of some of my favorites, like Always Sunny and Parks and Rec, and Dolph's favorite, Archer. You're probably well aware of just Hulu, but it's so much more when you add a Plus subscription. It works with your smartphone, Apple TV, Xbox, PlayStation, pretty much any streaming device that you already own. Watch whenever you want, wherever you want. Hulu Plus is only $7.99 a month to watch your favorite fall shows anytime, anywhere. But I'm going to get you 2 free weeks when you go to huluplus.com/Colt. Get those 2 weeks free. Way better than 1 week's free. huluplus.com/Colt. All right, Song of the Week this week. I know I just played Anti-Scene a couple weeks ago, but I got the man himself on the podcast, and how can I not play their song, Cactus Jack? Check these dudes out at antiscene.com and enjoy their song, and we'll be back with Cactus himself, Mick Foley.
Bang, bang. Leg, break, neck, snap, over the top of Cactus Jack. Hair long, wearing light, demon nose, big up like a wire toy thing. And the roots are up the flame, the misery and pain, and a ring of back looking, Cactus Jack, Cactus Jack, Cactus Jack, bang, bang. Well, leg, break, neck, snap, over the top of Cactus Jack. Hair long, we're black, keeping on sneak attack. But wire toy thing, with the roots are up the flame, misery and pain, and a ring of back looking, Cactus Jack, Cactus Jack, Cactus Jack, bang, bang.
Give me some levels here, man.
Yeah. Oh, it's great to be here, right here, on the Art of Wrestling.
On the podcast. It's like it's. I know we talked about that last time, but it's like it's so in the vernacular now that it's just like, okay, where are we at? The Art of Wrestling.
The Art of Wrestling.
Yeah, I'm gonna put it on.
Presence of mind to come up with a great label.
Yeah. So I'm gonna ask you to throw that microphone right into that beard you have.
Okay.
Really growing out the Santa beard.
It really, you can't tell this is fake color here, can you? Like,
Is it?
Oh, God.
Wait, I'm confused.
Are we on?
We are.
All right, yeah, it's a fake. I feel ashamed because, like, by nature of who I am, I should be kind of like a natural dude, and I got to admit, like, there's a lot of gray in the beard, and I have a like a temporary dark hair mousse that I will use, like, for my shows. Panic struck when I was on Raw because you can't get it on an airplane. You know, I was trying to travel light, and they took it.
You can, but you're a guy who doesn't travel with baggage.
Yes, I was trying to travel light, and like it was almost like an emergency call where Jan from hair and makeup came over and like had to like paint my beard with mascara, which is the same thing she did when I did the big promo with Punk. You know, like you get on that big screen, you don't realize how gray you are. So anyway, this is what I thought I would use like as a substitute. It's like a comb with this ridiculous paint in it. And I didn't think of myself as a guy with a black beard. There was a brown beard. But as we can clearly see, this ridiculous paint job. I mean, I feel like Tommy Dreamer or Jack Lanza spraying the can on the bald spot.
Yes.
Although Tommy apparently doesn't need it anymore. He's gone through the steps to.
Well, we don't want to out Tommy for anything.
Okay.
But I think he said like 17 surgeries to try to get himself some hair, and they've all gone awry. Jack Lanza was the guy, though.
Jack Lanza, yeah, he would have the spray and it would kind of flake off and land on his shoulders. And you're like, at a certain point, just cave into Mother Nature. And
Now, have you ever heard stories of guys wrestling with a toupee on?
Yeah. I mean, there was a rumor that like a top guy, a real.
I think we're both thinking.
I think
of
we're all,
okay.
and out of respect for the guy, we're
Correct.
not mentioning who he is. Like,
I'm the same page.
and
with
I
you.
think he had a perm at one point, and then he may or may not have been the top guy.
Okay, besides him, have you been? Because listen. We know like the story travels. Is there any great Memphis, Arkansas matches?
Not that I know of.
This guy?
not that I know of. I mean, there's a lot of hair coloring in our business. Unless Jimmy Hart is just like genetically gifted and can be 72 with jet black hair.
Yeah, but he's been on those commercials for hair restoration.
Oh, he has? I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. All right, I like it. The growing out the beard.
I think it's a given that in WWE to try to hold on to the youth. That I think fans accept that guys do the Just for Men or whatever it is they need to do for 5
spray
minutes.
tan. You could see after a match, it looks like someone has dookied all in the ring.
That's I like the when people say the difference in my day and in my day we used to leave trails of blood in the ring. Now you guys leave
Right.
tan.
The beard. So Santa, we're into Santa.
Yeah, we are. I'm like just a couple days away, and it's a major process. And this is I liken everything back to wrestling, and you've seen the movie, right? And one of the great quotes of all time, it's good when, and I'll let you give the quote.
Whoa. Okay.
When it makes a
me.
Yeah.
When it makes a Jew love Santa. Did you like that quote?
Oh, I loved it. Yeah, I loved it. And it was a topic of internal debate because Tommy Avalone, the director, he goes, "Can we say that?"
I didn't think he was going to put that up there, by the way.
I said, he goes, should we change it to a Jewish person? I said, well, then you're changing his quote.
Yeah.
And it was like almost like, using the N-word. It's like, well, he referred to himself.
Yeah.
I wouldn't personally.
He asked me for a quote, and I was like, let's see if he throws this one up there.
It was good, man. It was really good. It was really telling, so I appreciate it. And,
of course.
I made reference just before we went on the air. I was like, hey, were you on that show in Coventry, England in 2005? And it seemed like a vague question, but I'll get around to it in a second. But for the time being, I'll just say, like when I'm really interested in something, whether it's wrestling or writing, like I dive right in. And for me, the pivotal moment in that movie was when I decided, instead of just throwing on the beard, and there's nothing wrong with throwing on a beard because a lot of guys do it, they spread joy and happiness. But I was a guy when I wrestled, especially as I had the comeback matches, and obviously during my prime as well. Like, I needed to take a couple shots to kind of jolt me into being Cactus Jack or Mankind.
Physical shots.
Yeah, physical shots.
Not
no, not alcoholic shots.
Not eggnog for the Christmas spirit.
No, because I would try to get in the zone, but one of the difficulties I had is like I'm not by nature like an alpha male, like I wouldn't normally be there, so I would have to work myself into a state of mind, and then it helped for me to take a couple of jolts, and then oh yeah, that's right, I'm Cactus Jack, I'm Mankind.
Oh yeah, hey,
yeah,
hey, look, I forgot. That's me.
Exactly. Yeah. What am I doing? Like, instead of being, what am I doing here? What am I doing here? I look at the size of these guys, and then boom, yeah, I belong here. And that's the way I felt when I underwent the bleaching process. Because I was somebody criticized me, and it was a good, it was Santa, was like kind of a friend of mine. He was surprised that I would address the hairdresser by saying, because the question was, how is your scalp doing? And I said, it's in the outtakes. I said, it's not my scalp. I'm worried about it's your balls rubbing on my shoulder. And it got a big pop.
Yeah.
And the guy was surprised that I would talk to a hairdresser that way. I went, hairdresser? Like, hairdresser? We didn't have a hairdresser. This is a low-budget documentary film. Like, we're across the street from Santa's Village in a $55 motel room, and I'm trusting my beard and my hair to guys who've never done hair before in their lives. So
balls on your shoulder or balls on your shoulder?
Yeah. And they were just like, you accept it, and then after a while, it's like, those are balls resting on my shoulder for a length of time. But when he would say, what is the pain, 0 to 10? I said 2, 3, and then all of a sudden, it just like after we've been doing it 3 or 4 hours, I just randomly said just 9, just out of the blue. He goes 9 what? I said on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm now at a 9 because there's a definite burning process. But when I woke up the next morning and I had that it wasn't quite what you get it as blonde as you possibly can, and you touch it up a little bit. It was like, oh yeah. I belong in this suit. I belong in this suit. And I think if I just gone the other way, just put on the beard and spread joy that way, that it wouldn't have felt the same. So the parallel I draw is you've been in the ring with both types of guys. Mm-hmm. The guys who are almost like illusionists, and they create almost like a spell and without putting their opponent in too much jeopardy. And then, like, if you've ever been on the receiving end of Stone Cold Steve Austin's comeback punches, that would be the antithesis of the illusionist. And I'm not saying Steve would be very proud of the fact he laid everything in.
Sure.
And I think that's what I'm trying to say is everyone has their way of doing it. And if you want to be Santa, an ambassador, in case any kids are listening, and you can do it with the beard, if you the traditional beard as they call it, that's fine. But I was always that guy that needed to like suffer a little bit for the sake of the art.
I like it.
Yeah,
And
that's a pretty good analogy, right?
I wrestled this a couple weeks ago at Anime Con. And I was at an anime, and it was just like full of these people who love animation. I've wrestled at Gathering of the Juggalos, and I've been a part of this thing. So watching this film and seeing SantaCon, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's something for everybody.
Well, it wasn't it wasn't SantaCon. There were some drunks who were forward thinking and got the rights to that name. So
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean that's basically like a huge, like bar crawl. But they got the name, but like
it was a gathering of the Santa.
The Jim Yellig conference. He was a legendary. Yeah, but yeah, when you have like 300 guys together, it is pretty bizarre.
And tell me if you're the same way, because I feel like as a kid who loved wrestling, I always wished that I could find these people who were so like-minded. And at my high school, there was maybe 2 or 3, and I don't know you. Well, I know you well enough to know that I saw your backyard tapes when they were on Raw, and it showed you and your buddies.
Yeah.
But that wasn't hundreds of thousands of people collectively together, like-minded people. And so, like, I guess, like, because of the internet, and like, people are able to find each other, and us, it's wrestling, isn't it?
Yeah. It reminded me so much of wrestling, and it reminded me like wrestling's the tether for this podcast. If I wander away too much into Santaland, just kind of bring me back, so find a way to tie it into wrestling, or else you're going to lose the people. But I identified right away. It was like, this is Beyond the Mat, except without the tears, but the same sense of struggling to be a character. The difference is like when Tommy was doing this thing, and I thought like a lot of the guys in that Santa community, and a lot of people who look at the DVD go, this looks like fun. Mick Foley is going to become Santa. Like this is all jolliness. And Tommy said, it's not all jolliness.
Right.
He says, you got to understand, like, you know how competitive your business is, where you have hundreds, and really, when you look at the fringe guys, thousands of people all trying to put a unique stamp on their own character. He said, now imagine you got thousands of people, and they're all trying to put their unique stamp on an iconic character, and most of them, or many of them, are convinced that they do it better than anyone. So there's a lot of competition. There's a lot, there's this struggle, I think, for acceptance, which we know. I mean, Raven put it perfectly.
Never been said before, but go on.
Raven put it perfectly. I mean, he goes, what emotionally healthy person gets into a business where they dress up and participate in kind of fantasy warfare to receive approval from total strangers
in spandex? I think about this all the time.
Yeah.
Like, I was in spandex the other, and like I think Tyson Dukes, a friend of mine, I was just like, what are we doing? Like, what am I doing? Yet I love it, but like sometimes you take yourself out of it and you look down and you're like, this is so weird.
It is so weird, and you'll try to look at it like we accept that people wear while we will readily laugh at 80s basketball players with the short shorts, like, look at these guys. It's like, no, we were, not we, as in me, because the more I covered up, the better I did. It was,
Congratulations, by the way.
I
figured it out a
little. It was
little.
a winning formula. Yeah, I was like, okay, I had the butcher singlet, and that was clearly showing too much skin, so I went with the Tarzan singlet, which showed a little bit less, and then finally in 91 I just asked my wife, can you just make me a bunch of stuff, like cover up, and ultimately I ended up with my face covered, my entire body, even my right hand covered. Yeah, there was like no skin showing whatsoever, so I think
took the smart path.
that was a formula for success for me. But I found the same, that's what drew me to it. Was like, I know these guys. It's just instead of wearing spandex, they're wearing red and white.
Let's talk about Beyond the Mat. So there's a bunch of subjects I do want to cover because we covered a bunch of subjects in the last one. So I want to make sure. I mean, I don't know. We don't hit whatever. Beyond that. So speaking, you made the Santa Claus movie. You also made the Beyond the Mat movie. Beyond the Mat movie is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Thank you, Colt.
Barry Blaustein, yourself, Roland Alexander. The list goes on and on. Did that, like, I guess in career moments, pivotal moments, was that, I mean, I just remember going to it and watching it and loving it.
Yeah.
It's a little harder for me because I was probably 17 at the time. You were in the midst of that career.
Right.
Like, how much did that change you as a star or a person in the world? Did you know going into that how much that was going to
Beyond
change
the Mat?
you? Yeah.
Honestly, when I first met Barry Blaustein, I think it was 1995. I got a call from Barry Bloom when I was at like the Copper Nugget, like way off the strip.
And so if we think
Vegas.
about it, 95, I mean, 98 is WWE, right?
I joined WWE in. I had my
96?
first meeting in late '95. Joined in '96. I debuted on TV the day after WrestleMania.
So 95 is before this.
Right. At the time I got the call, Barry Bloom was, known in the business, Jesse Ventura's manager, and I knew him a little bit, only through Jesse. And we were way off the strip, and I was wrestling Sabu that night. And Sabu and I always had a wild match. It turned out that was one of probably the best matches we had together, including a spot like we're just so focused on the match that it never occurred to us that like sweeping the chips off a blackjack
It
table
was in the casino?
Yeah, we actually brawled into the casino.
So illegal.
And just sweeping the chips out to go for the pile driver. Like, we're just focused
For
on
the
that.
art.
For the art.
Yeah.
You suffer for the art. We didn't know people had guns drawn on us. But he said, while I'm, getting in the zone to wrestle Sabu, because, you can't have a match with Sabu unless you're in that zone. I get a call saying he's got this filmmaker and he's doing a documentary. So when I met Barry Blaustein, he had this idea of the cast of characters he wanted to profile. My role was that of the guy who had that taste of stardom and was now back where he started.
So you were the Jake the Snake role.
Yeah,
almost.
I was kind of like that, without the demons.
Sure.
But I was the guy, where you'd say give that.
Well, you had
thing-
chocolate. You like chocolate. And you like-
Yeah, I do. I do have my. They're not the same ones that Jake has.
All right,
But,
cookies.
yeah, I will ask for this candy basket to be removed. I will actually go. What's the big popcorn you guys here in Chicago? Like the caramel?
Garrett.
Yeah. Don't ask me how. I don't want to name drop too much, but I ended up getting like the huge, like 10-pound tin of it. And I asked my wife, said, we got this huge thing of popcorn. And I said, who's it from? And she reads the label and says, it's from the Secretary of Defense.
Sure.
Long story. But I did get a tin of popcorn from former Secretary of Defense, William Cohen. And like, that's my, I can't stop. Like if you ever, I can't stop.
Do you get? So I mean, I get rid of the. What is it? Cheddar's the one that's first. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I go with the caramel.
You go with the caramel.
But on the second year that the Secretary of Defense hooked me up with the Garrett's popcorn, I still have heat with my oldest son because he didn't think it was within my rights to pour ammonia into the 10-pound tin of popcorn so that I wouldn't be tempted.
Sure,
by
that's the
it,
only way.
That was the only way. Otherwise, it would literally haunt me.
Yeah.
I mean, last night I went to the opening of Dee Snider's Rock and Roll Christmas, and when I couldn't sleep, it was like, gift bag, give chocolate,
Right.
And so,
your demons are there.
I do. The demons are there. They're just legal. They're legal.
So you had a different piece in
Yeah.
the movie originally.
And then luckily,
now let me ask this: so you in his mind at least, you're on your, what did you call it, your downwards path?
I wasn't on a downward spiral. I was just plateaued, and I was that guy. And we all see them out there. There's nothing
Sure.
wrong with being that guy.
Right.
But I mean, at the time, I had 2 little kids. There seemed to be no hope for me in WWE, and I'll kind of joke about. I found a way to kind of joke about that in the show. And honestly, I was on the verge of calling WCW. I passed this by Paulie, the idea that I actually wanted to call them and see if I could return on Monday nights, just to be like, like an enhancement guy with some with a name,
Right.
And
I think of like Pedro Morales when I was a kid. He was kind of an enhancement guy.
he'd had his run, and
Right.
and that was like Chief J Strongbow,
Yep.
guys like that. But I thought, realistically, okay, between Monday nights, which were not a strong indie night, between the ECW stuff I was doing and the Japanese tours, like, I could put a pretty good living together for my family. And I believe, I don't know for a fact if I floated the idea to Paul E. and he sank it with the idea, no, you can't do that. And in my mind, at least, he gave me the big pep talk about how I was somebody.
You're a star.
Yeah, and he believed that WWE would eventually come calling, which seemed out of the question at that time. But when I did join WWE, I remember like almost saying my goodbyes to Barry Blaustein, because it was WCW that was penciled in as being the main group. But then they had the upper hand, and for whatever reason, I don't know what went on behind the scenes. All of a sudden, it was WWE. Now, by the time the movie aired, WWE was firmly in the driver's seat, and Vince never came. I'm going to go back to the Santa. Just keep me on the tether. I'm going to go to the Santa movie just for a minute.
Okay.
Vince, to this day, doesn't enjoy Beyond the Mat. And part of the reason he doesn't enjoy it is he thinks it takes away from the magic, whereas I think that anyone who enters that movie walks away with a healthier respect for the guys, with all their faults.
I think it takes away from the magic, but you invited your camera in to tape this magic.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what are you mad at?
Well, exactly. But I go back to the respect thing. It's like, okay, so they're not flawless, they're not superheroes, but man, look at the dedication and look at the passion they bring. And that's the way I felt about this movie when the guys in that world would grumble they were revealing the magic. And I was like, hey man, remember, like in Elf, which is an amazing movie, like a top-notch department store hires a Santa so fraudulent that Buddy the Elf senses it right away. Like, you smell like beef and cheese. It's Artie Lang in that role. Like, but that's the way people think of those guys, and I think this movie allows people to see that becoming Santa is not something you end up doing; it's something you like aspire to do.
Right.
Let's get back to wrestling. I'll just.
So when you're that character, and you got the kids, and you're kind of saying, "Hey, Paulie, maybe Monday night I can come be your Sergeant Buddy Lee Parker." When you see this role, this movie, are you like, things are going to change because of this movie?
No. I thought honestly that the movie would be what I would be remembered for.
Gotcha.
I did not think it was going to make me. I thought it would be like, here's my legacy. Like, you want to know what my career stood for? Here's this movie. And fortunately, I was wrong. I mean, I still love it. It's still one of the things I'm proudest of. To this day, I disagree with Mr. McMahon about it. But, fortunately, things changed a little bit.
Okay, so I had 2 other topics I wanted to dive into with you. One was, I guess, enhancement work, right?
Yeah.
And then the other one was Japan. So I know it's hard with you because, and I'll ask if this is, you've not something that's against you is like the books. There's so much knowledge out there that it's like, what
can you possibly
what are we really
dredge
into?
up about? Yeah. And then I not only had the DVD, but I got my own hour on the Monday Night Wars. And
Right.
a few people correctly noted, like, there's only so much you can say, especially when a lot of that was covered in For All Mankind, For All Mankind. But yeah, so you got to dig a little deeper.
Yeah, so
There's still a wealth of knowledge. You just got to chip away because my days as an enhancement talent in WWE are not that well documented.
Right. So you were with Jack Foley, is that right? No.
Yeah, I wrestled, I think, 4 or 5 enhancement matches, and they got my name wrong. The only time they got it right is when it was Jack Foley. I said, I'm Cactus Jack Foley. Pat Patterson said right away, lose the nickname, lose the bandana. And so for some reason, I thought that turning like a suede vest inside out spelled cool. And, and I debuted like a fairly lean, mean, about 230. Not a hint of muscle on my structure, but relatively lean, and thought I was in pretty good shape when I took on the Bulldogs in the second match of my career.
So those were okay. That was right. Those were all kind of the early matches.
Yeah. And then they got me as Jack Foley. They called me, instead of Mick Foley, called me Nick Foley once, and then they called me Kurt Hoffman because we had a wrestler in Danucci's crew called Kurt Kaufman, and they just thought I was him.
But didn't even get the Kaufman right.
Yeah, they didn't even get that right. So, I think I wrestled 4 times.
So who are the guys you wrestled?
I wrestled the British Bulldogs the first night. I wrestled the Killer Bees the second when I was just out of it. First wrestling concussion that I know about. I don't remember suffering one in training. And I also had Hercules, Kamala. And I believe that may have been it.
Okay.
That may have been it.
And while you're back there, first of all, like, were there other guys back there doing that kind of work that you saw later on the rise up almost?
Not many. Okay. Shane Douglas.
In the lower spot, right?
In the lower spots. Yeah. I mean, they had some guys, who were pretty entrenched as like lower card guys who later got like Paul Roma later got a push, but he was in there. No, I don't remember seeing anybody while I was there who ended up becoming somebody.
And going in, because a lot of wrestlers who do this have, and I don't know if it was the same 20, 25 years ago or whatever, when you go back there and you kind of have nerves, like, are you thinking I belong? Are you thinking I'm just here to make these guys look good? Are you nervous when you see somebody of importance? Do you kind of cower a little bit?
A little bit, yeah. It was kind of surreal, and I think most of your listeners know that it was a different day back then. That WWE kind of revolved around superstars wrestling, which was basically one-sided enhancement matches. So there were a lot of enhancement guys. And I know it had an effect on me because I remember the guys who went out of their way to make me feel welcome.
Which were?
It was pretty hard. I mean, I remember Piper going out of his way. And I remember specifically Kamala not berating me when I messed up in my match. Let's say we all mess up. And I remembered I basically sold a phantom blow to the back, and Heenan tried to cover for me. And I think this Nick Foley is so Kurt Hoffman or whatever. I was so scared that he tried to cover for him. But I mean, I messed up big time, and I was ready for the reprimanding because you've seen some of the guys cut promos on guys who mess up, and everyone's a ball of nerves. They're giving you their body, and then some guys take liberties, and then some guys get absolutely steamed if things don't go exactly according to plan. And then their way of resolving that is to hit the guy even harder. And as far as I've seen, there's not really a correlation between people who take guys' heads off and guys who get over. There are a few exceptions. But I remember just saying, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm so sorry. And he said,
oh, it's okay.
Yeah. He goes, I was wondering what happened there. I was wondering. And I mean, I took note of that. And I was like, you know what? Like, that's the way I want to be treated. And that's the way I'm going to try to treat people. And even if it's not, even if it's just a little something, when you see those guys and they're kind of huddled together, there's not too many extras in WWE. I always try to go out of my way and say, hey, man, good luck out there. And listen, this is an important thing. And this is what I tell guys when they say they want to get in the Indies. Like, don't forget to have fun. It's so harrowing, that. And you remember when you and I started doing these comedy shows like 4 years ago. we'd go out there, be a couple of those nights. So, some nights we did well, but there were a few nights where there would be like 16 people, and it was like every bit as like traumatic as going out there, to do TV, because we were so far out of our comfort level. Right. And that's the way everybody is when they get there. Now that 20, you can't describe that 20-foot ring until you step into it. It just looks like a vast desert, I mean, I remember the first time I ran those ropes, in a match, I was like, am I ever going to get to the other side, when it's really just one more step?
Yeah.
So it's for guys who show up there and they have the little dressing room, extra talent, I think it helps when you have guys just going out of their way, like Piper did to me, like Kamala did, like Bret Hart did, and you remember that when you get older.
Did you watch? Did you go out of the curtain? So you're a young Mick Foley,
Kurt Hoffman, Jack Foley,
and are you opening up the curtain and seeing Hogan do his thing?
Oh, I would watch as much as I could.
Of course,
yeah.
But that was the Hulk's heyday, yeah.
Oh yeah. And at that time, they would put together some long cards, and if they were giving somebody a push, the audience might see them 3 times, possibly 4 times. But Hogan was so over that he would be in the advertised dark match, and everyone would stick around, and then people would lose their minds. People can take shots at Hogan. He's one of the most knocked and one of the most beloved guys too, simultaneously. But no question, he could keep an audience. He could keep an audience in their seats for 4 hours, and then keep them in the palm of his hand. When he finally went out there.
So you go to Japan now. I know before. I mean, so the deathmatch tape was the first tape I ever got.
Oh, was it really?
The first, I guess hey, look at me, I'm an insider now. I've seen this IWA deathmatch tape. But you had been going for All Japan.
I went for All Japan once.
Okay,
I went for All Japan once. The rumor was, I remember Dynamite Kid, pulling me aside and saying, "Hey, Baba likes you." He was really being helpful. And this is the same Dynamite Kid that dislocated my jaw and, removed me from solid foods for 3 weeks because he was, he was an intense guy, and those type of things happen.
Give me a year on that All Japan tour.
Oh, that was 91, and it's like Dr. Death and Terry Gordy, and then Dory and Terry were there for the last 2 weeks. I mean, Crawford and Furnace and Danny Spivey, Dynamite Kid. I mean, it was it was pretty. Oh, Stan Hansen. Hansen took me, and that was another thing. Hansen being treated the way I was by Hansen gave me an insight into how I should be treating people if I ever got into that position, because you don't forget those things. I did pretty well, but my problem in All Japan is about 2.5 weeks in. Believe it or not, at that time, John Laurinaitis was teaming with Kenta Kobashi, and he was Johnny Ace at the time, and he would do a moonsault. So much so that the spot I wanted to do was to have him tease the moonsault. I would kind of catch him to go for the back suplex off the second rope. He'd turn it into a crossbody. But
Kobashi or Johnny Ace?
Johnny, because Kobashi did it too. But this
Kobashi's
is
known for his moonsault.
Yeah. And then Johnny started doing it too. And honestly, Johnny was good. I mean, I really don't give him his props, and it was hilarious when Punk used to put him down. But Johnny, at his best, was very good. And you had to be good to hang with Kobashi, and later he would, he teamed with Hansen, and Hansen's like a machine. And in this case, we're all trained to, tuck our chins, and I tucked my chin, and Johnny didn't have a way of getting his arm out. And it was just that sinking feeling when I realized he was hurt. And I also realized as he was hurt that he was Mrs. Baba's favorite, and this was not a good career move for me.
Right.
And I remember calling home. You have those, either the gimmick cards or all putting all those 100 yen coins in. And I said to my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, I was like, Colette, I said, I dislocated Johnny Ace's elbow. She goes, that away, Mick. Tell him you're not going to, show them you're not going to. No, that's not good. That's not good at all. And then I was really on pins and needles from that moment on, and I never did get the call. I don't know whether I would have, but fortunately, WCW came calling.
So before that, you were excited to start with All Japan? Was it like a big career thing for you?
Oh man, I thought if I could catch on with All Japan again, realizing that I wasn't what WWE was looking for, and at that time not get I'd had my run in WCW. I'd had that run. I eventually thought maybe I could go back, but I would have been really content. I was a huge All Japan fan. That I liked that style better than New Japan, and quite honestly, it fit me better. It wasn't quite as fast. It was really solid. I mean, it was really stiff and believable, but it wasn't quite as fast. And I did pretty well. I needed more offense. I didn't have a lot of offense. I never did. Even when I was on top, I very limited in what I could actually do.
Your offense was your defense.
My offense was my defense. And when I finally learned some aggression along the way, that helped tide me through. But I look at a guy like Dean Ambrose, and I'm reminded of him not only in terms of attitude, but also, okay, he's got to take the creative path to come up with cool ways on offense, because he's not going to be a powerhouse like a lot of the guys on the roster.
Mm-hmm. So was there anyone else before the IWA guys, or I don't know if this has been covered, but that's such an extreme path to take.
Yeah, I was asked about it, and I did. When I had it, then now we fast forward 3-year run in WCW where I become a name and I become known for having wild matches, and I had the chance to go over for IWA. But I wasn't interested at that time. I was doing pretty well in the independents, and I had found a home in ECW. This is June of 1995. I think that was when we did the talent swap, and I wrestled Sabu for the first time. So when I left WCW in September of '95, I had a slot in ECW.
What was the talent swap? I'm sorry.
Talent swap. There was something to do with WCW using the word WrestlePalooza, I believe.
Oh.
And so
this was on a thing. Heyman said that he.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
And so part of the talents was they got I came over for a match, and I think Ron Simmons and
Arn Anderson.
There were a few guys
Right.
came over, and I liked it. I liked the atmosphere, and so I had a place to go when I left WCW. I really didn't have any interest in the blood and guts stuff. It intrigued me, but I was doing pretty good without it. And I like to have. I had really physical matches using my body. And I used chairs and things like that, and I thought that the stuff they were using was kind of fascinating in the pictures and the Japanese matches. But it wasn't until Terry Funk signed with IWA that I went, I've got to go over there, because in my heart I knew that I'd never actually drawn money. Whether I was on, they were going to have the same exact gate whether I was on the card or not. Even though I was a shot in the arm for WCW. Good TV programs was staying, but I couldn't claim that I'd draw. That was in my. Maybe people out there could disagree with me. In my heart, I hadn't drawn money. I hadn't proved that I was a star and that I could make a difference. And when I went over there for that first tour and saw that they were going to give me the ball, it was it was tough, painful run, but I liked it. I liked it, and I liked that respect that came along with it. And it seems like a minor difference, but there was an appreciation in Japan, for doing that stuff, where you didn't feel like you were like an animal in a cage, performing tricks. There was a real appreciation. It somehow seemed to fit into the warrior ethos. And then I in my first book, I had my own feeling that the dismantling of the military following World War II caused Japan that warrior ethos was gonna seep through in other parts of the culture, and whether it was pro wrestling or pornography, where in the limited viewings I had, no one of the female persuasion seemed to be enjoying themselves at all. You know, like I just didn't like. I didn't like
the many
it.
viewings I've had.
No,
I would agree with for me.
It wasn't my thing. You know, I like to see the ladies have a good time.
So who is like what kind of not what kind of matches, but like are you being creative, and what different types of matches are there? Like bringing you the options, like a menu of.
Well, they would. We had a guy, Mr. Asano, and Mr. Asano is worth between $500 million and $1 billion, depending on what the Tokyo housing market was. And it was almost like he came up with the pushpin misery match, you know, the thumbtack match as we call it. Before that, it was the no rope barbed wire match. You know, it was my first match in IWA. It was a tag team no rope barbed wire match, and there something about, you know, like the aura of the wire and being in there with Funk was a big part of it. You know, being in there with my hero and having this, you know, like I said, like having the ball and realizing you're going to run with it. So that there was a card, but you know, trading card from that first night I was in Japan where I'm doing the bang bang, and there was quite a bit of blood involved. And I later gave an interview in 2004 about Randy Orton, where it was a real intricate interview, pretty deep, where I said I had explained away all my actions in Japan because I was a father with a mortgage to pay. But when you really look at those matches and you see the expression on my face, like, you can't fake that. You know, like, there was part of me that liked being in there. You know, like I did, you know, like I remember Rick Patterson, Leatherface, holding a Shoji Nakamaki, you know, in the backbreaker, and I wrapped that barbed wire around my arm, and I came off with that, you know, the elbow, which is it was cool when Demolition did it without the barbed wire, right? And then I looked up in that camera and bang, bang. And I just remember thinking, who's kidding who? You liked being over there, you know, and I did. For the most part, I did.
And is that IWA? Is that the last kind of Jap? It was just a little of All Japan and then the IWA stuff?
Yeah, and then when I went to WWE, I told Mr. McMahon, geez, I have some obligations I have to finish in Japan. And he said, do you have a contract? And I said, no. And he looked at me. I remember he goes, you'd like to finish out your obligations, although you have no contract. And I said, yeah. And he goes, that's the type of person I want working for me. Because at that time, he'd had a bunch of departures, you know,
right,
guys that he thought would never leave him. And I think he really appreciated that, like as narrow-minded as it was from a business standpoint, you know.
So did you go back and do it?
I went back. Yeah, I went back for those. You know,
you didn't do the death matches, did you?
Oh yeah.
Come on.
And then I even did the next 2 years. I did one match out of respect for Victor Quinones, because I stayed in IWA even though Victor went to FMW. You know, like I already had the deal signed with WWE. Like I don't want to jump. I'm happy. You know, like. I'm happy. It's kind of it was a controversial decision because Victor had brought me over, but I was happy. You know, I was happy.
It's
there.
a hard decision.
I was happy there, and I didn't see any reason to jump for 3 tours. You know, so I finished out my tours, and then, like, out of respect for Victor Quinones booking me, I did 2 FMW super shows.
Okay.
And why WWE allowed me to do them, I have no idea. It was crazy. It was crazy because I was a push talent at that time, and I was Mankind, but I would come back and I would be Cactus Ujako.
Yeah. You just don't see that anymore.
Yeah, no, you don't. No, I remember somebody reminded me that I actually, because I saw you wrestle in Mansfield, Ohio, the night before you wrestled Stone Cold Steve Austin Over the Edge. I was like, yeah. And I remember driving like it's almost 1,000 miles from Mansfield, Ohio to Milwaukee. I mean, it's 700-800 at least.
Jesus.
And all the time I'm thinking, what was I thinking? Because Steve is like a machine, you know, and you're working on top, and I show up with 0 sleep, and you know that
you had
guy's
socks
gonna,
to sell, man. You had some socks to
that
sell.
was in that WWE was allowing their guys to do indies. Like, it was just like
I remember there's a point like Val Venus was doing a lot of indies
while he was working full time. It was Yeah, I don't know why. Probably not a good business move. and then the money shot up. Honestly, like in the next 6 months, all of a sudden the business, wrestling had taken off, and mainly Steve Austin had taken off, and we were kind of strapped to his back. And everything became much more popular than we ever could have imagined. And now instead of now like the price to put a WWE guy in an indie thing like quadrupled seemingly overnight. But at that time, yeah, like it was, you working and Brian Knobs of all people, Brian Knobs. We're gonna match with Brian Knobs. Like that's the guy you want to keep you safe before you have. That's why you would trust you. Hey, I got a match with Stone Cold. Let's keep me safe tonight.
Yeah, Knobs will do it for you. As we wind down, I don't want to forget this Coventry thing. Did we hit that?
We did not hit Coventry, and the reason I was thinking Coventry is because I know that a lot of wrestling fans, they're not they appreciate that I have this Santa thing, but they're not like really on board, and they don't yet. I think in my shows, it's like it is the show they want to see. Just most people haven't figured that out yet. And hopefully, with WWE airing the special, when, I don't say if, but when that happens, then people will go, oh, it's a wrestling show, But for a lot of people, it's like, no, we like you in that ring as part of WWE. And we'll let you do that stuff on your own. Like, we appreciate that you feel like you have to do that, but we'll be here almost like when Adam Sandler or Will Ferrell have a dramatic role. And people go, yeah, okay, I appreciate you need to do that.
Go try and get your Oscar.
Yeah.
We'll be here
waiting for you. Yeah, we're waiting for some laughs. But I go back to Coventry. And Coventry is the one that stands out, where every once in a while someone on social media will say, I met Mick Foley in Coventry, didn't even seem like he wanted to be there. It's like, that's because I didn't want to be, I didn't want to be there. Like, I didn't want to be the guest referee, for 10. And this is, no knock on Alex who booked me, but Alex booked me for like 6 different promoters without a thought of what part of the UK I would be in. So it was literally like going from Wales to Scotland to Coventry to, it was just all over the place. And I was tired and I was sick. Didn't really in my heart want to be a guest referee, and I even did the 6-man, the 8-man or whatever that night. I was like, what the heck? I'm already here. It's a little extra money. But if somebody came away from that experience saying Mick Foley didn't look like he wanted to be here, they were right on the money. And it
still weighs on your heart a little bit, though.
It weighs on my heart,
which is interesting
because everybody should walk away, from.
Which means you have a conscience.
Yeah, I mean, to this day, it bothers me that people could tell that I didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
And so I just bring it back to the Santa movie and the shows I'm doing, and it's like when people are like, wow, Mick was so, I think everyone walks away from these things, oh, he was great. And it's like, that's because I'm doing something I really love to do. And even though, yeah, sure, I would like someone to buy something at the table, but they don't have to. Like, it's flattering just that they come out to try it, we'll have a great. You and I, we're doing this before we do our first show together in over 3 years, right? We'll have a great time, and I think one of the things that people are worried about is like they'll go, wait a second, didn't this guy used to wrestle in front of like 20,000 people, and now he's here like he's in front of like they were sold out. Let's make it clear, 250. But any guy who's ever like come on and done a guest spot for me, we play the music, someone comes out, it's like. They come away and they're like, that 250 feels an awful lot like 20,000. Once you take away the big cylindrical feel of that huge pop, and I'm using a line I've been using recently, but it pertains to Hacksaw Jim Duggan after he'd wrestled in one of the opening matches in WrestleMania 3, and all the boys in the back were like, Jim, what was it like? 93,000 fans, and Jim gave like this great answer. He goes, brother, I wasn't wearing my glasses, but those first 3 rows look good. And so when you're out there, you're essentially playing to those few hundred people you can see anyway. And of course, when you're on TV or a spot show, you're looking out at the masses. But it's about who you can connect with. And so whether it's connecting with 250 here, right here, in
the art of wrestling
in Rosemont, Illinois, or whether it's just that one kid, on my lap when I'm doing my Santa thing. It's about wow, I'm getting a reaction, like I'm making a difference, and I am exactly where I want to be.
I'm glad. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll give you credit. A lot of people are jumping on the old, we can make a quick buck. We'll be stand-up comedians now. You've been touring this thing for years. You know what I'm saying? Like, you've been honing it.
Yeah.
You're really dedicated.
Oh,
and I think
thanks,
that's
man.
great. And,
Yeah.
I think we all wish, like, right? Have you seen, like, progression upwards and upwards and upwards? It's kind of like
And
wrestling, ain't it?
to the point where, like, I don't even want to watch the old stuff I did.
Just like
oh
wrestling.
man, it's got, you work on it every night. Try to, if you have a match that is going well, and you think of how can I make this match better. It's kind of the same thing with the show, even to the point where it's like, all right, let me try a emphasis on one word, and you just try these things out, and you see what works, and then you play off the crowd. Some nights on a Friday, Saturday, they don't get the hour-long theme; they get the loose collection of unconnected stories, because they don't. Friday Night Late Show isn't going to have the patience. So it's like anything else. You get better at it, and I know you said everyone's jumping on the bandwagon. Some guys are willing to put the work in. Regal's really a student of the comedy business. Dolph, Dolph's out there doing open mic nights. But yeah, there are a lot of guys who want to do like the Q&A without the work,
right.
And a lot of the work entails getting up really early
Without the W. They want to do the Q&A without the W. Where are the tour dates at?
Tour dates, you can find them at realmickfoley.com. That's like your place for everything. I'll be, and one of the beautiful parts about doing these shows is they're so mobile. It's like it's just me in a rental car. Mm-hmm. And I drove over here. I had the pleasure of driving over. You've got like a real wrestling car, like that thing has a lot. There's a lot of love in that car.
Thank you.
It's not masquerading as something. It's not. I
am who I am, my friend.
That's all that. I am.
And where can we buy the movie?
And you know what? You can you can go to iTunes. You can buy it on DVD or Blu-ray at IamSantaClausMovie.com. But a hot tip just for you guys: Netflix, November 25th.
Wonderful. Thanks for coming on again.
Thanks, Colt. Really enjoyed it.
All right, we had a great time at that show. It was such a blast. We're going to be doing it again in Grand Rapids and Royal Oak, and hopefully more after that. Mick Foley, check out his movie, I Am Santa Claus. It's on my queue when I'm moving around Netflix. It's there. It's real. It's a real thing. It's tangible. It's very cool. Mick Foley always popping up around the world of professional wrestling and representing wrestlers who can be comedic and successful. Wink. Sometimes funny does equal money. All right, before we get out of here, let's get into some plugs and
upcoming events.
All right, the best way that you can support ColtMerch.com and DigitalColt.com. I got a Twitter and an Instagram at Colt Cabana. ColtWrestling at gmail.com is my very public email. Maybe you're a promoter who want to put me on your upcoming show or convention. WorstPromoEver.com. Go see the archives of Marty DeRosa and I. ColtCabana.com is my website. I got a P.O. box. I get snail mail. Thank you for the cards that I got. Brennan and Dan, my Chicago friends. Barry, Andrew, Sight and Sound with Jody, Alan, Bill, Ben, 2 Mikes, Sean and Kristen, Beckett, Kona, and the Ischauser family. That was just a bunch of them. I probably misplaced a bunch of other cards. I'm sorry. Those are the ones that get the shout out. Thanks for sending some snail mail. Also, Facebook.com/AOW podcast. Like it. Upcoming Friday, December 26th, Cleveland, Ohio, AIWrestling.com. Saturday, December 27th, Berwyn, Illinois, AAWrestling.com. Sunday, December 28th, Providence, Rhode Island, Facebook.com/Beyond Wrestling. Saturday, January 10th, Granite City, Illinois, Facebook.com/PWCS Wrestling. January 16th to the 18th, Miami, Florida, MagicCityComicCon.com. Tuesday and Wednesday, January 20th and 21st, Grand Rapids and Royal Oak, Michigan, RealMickFoley.com. Go see us do a little stand-up. Friday, what was that? That was weird. Friday, January 23rd, Pontiac, Michigan, InsaneClownPosse.com. Sunday, January 25th, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, WrestleRumble.com. Afterwards, we watch the Royal Rumble, and I think Cliff and I are going to do some commentary on the Royal Rumble itself. That's going to be a lot of fun, actually. Sunday, February 15th, back in the UK, London, England, RevolutionProWrestling.com. That is the show. Big thank you to you guys at home. Big thanks to Mick Foley for coming on the podcast. Thanks to CM Punk and Cliff Compton for hanging out with me earlier, doing our usual Christmas Yuletide on the podcast. Thanks to Cable Guy Jeff and Stu Stone. Thanks to Kid Russell and Matt Jenkins on the music. Dane Miller for the tech. Let's thank our sponsors, HuluPlus.com/Colt. Binge watch your favorite TV episodes and full seasons anywhere, anytime. $7.99 a month is a steal, and you're going to get 2 weeks absolutely free by heading on over to HuluPlus.com/Colt. HighSpots.com. Hundreds of full-length titles available to download, plus all the $5 wrestling titles, AMA knee pads, gear, mask, a ring, and the Freight Train documentary, which I am in, and it is amazing. ProWrestlingTees.com and BarbershopWindow.com, the original alternative and independent wrestling shirt companies, both powered by 1 Hour Tees, custom t-shirts made to your liking in an hour, a week, or whenever you need it. And I'm wearing tweakedaudioearbuds.com/Colt right now. 30% off and free shipping just because you listen to this show. Merry Christmas from the Jewish guy from Chicago. All right, this has been The Art of Wrestling. For Colt Cabana, I'm Colt Cabana. Thanks. You're gonna
Hey guys.
Podcast.
do that.
Come on, welcome. Come on in. Spiritual, noisy podcast. I am an entertainer. I am a stair walker. I am a park and a handicap spotter because I don't feel like walking into the grocery store too far. I am a man who will drive 2 blocks to my best friend's house in the summer when it's nice out because I can't walk.